Hey guys, Cody with CJC Off-Road. Today's video is gonna be about a very cool 5th gen Ram Limited with the factory air assist on the 2500 platform. These are very unique trucks. This truck actually wasn't even built in our shop, but this customer picked up all the parts from us and did a beautiful build in his driveway. Proof that you don't have to drive to Southern California to get a very cool build. I think this build speaks for itself. As I mentioned, this is the newer Ram 2500 with the factory leveling rear air suspension. Essentially, for those of you who aren't familiar, instead of having a coil spring in the rear, this truck comes from Ram with an airbag that replaces the coil spring and a sensor that basically sets the leveling height of the suspension. Now, what is very unique about this suspension system for this truck by Carli suspension is that it is for this truck. Instead of kind of coming up with a combination of components that work, it's gonna have specific shock lengths, specific shock tunes to these rear airbag setups. So I can confidently say this is the most purpose-built and best riding on an off-road setup for the Ram 2500 rear leveling suspension setups. And when you check out this truck, you'll notice that it also has the black anodized shocks, which is a custom order option. But yeah, I'd say rounds out this build beautifully. Obviously, this is a very modified truck, so we're gonna try to keep the build list as condensed as possible. As I mentioned, this is the Carli suspension Pintop 2.5 leveling system for these trucks. So it's gonna have the 2.5-inch front coils by Carli, their custom tuned King 2.5 shocks. It's gonna have the Carli upgraded torsion sway bar, which really helps with ride. The high and low steering stabilizer is gonna help control the 37-inch tires. And the radius arms are gonna allow for a little bit more movement off-road, and they're gonna look the part as well. Moving on to the rear of the truck, again, this is the factory rear air suspension. So instead of using nothing in the rear like you would with a standard Pintop leveling system, you're gonna get a 1-inch airbag spacer, and that is because the standard height of these rear air trucks is 1 inch lower. So we bring it up 1 inch, and that helps match the 2.5-inch front coils, so on and so forth. You're also going to have the custom tuned King 2.5s again, and this customer also opted for the Thurin rear track bar. The benefit of this rear track bar is because the Ram 2500 rear axle swings so much side to side. Sometimes when you're towing, which this customer obviously does, you're going to get a lot of side to side movement in the rear, and the Thurin rear track bar is going to cut that in half. So it's really going to make the truck feel a lot more planted when going down the highway. Pair that up with these custom tuned King 2.5s, and you have a really, really nice riding setup for this customer's uses. I don't think I could have picked a better wheel and tire package for this truck myself. As you can tell, these are the Innovate 17-inch G500 wheels in the bronze finish and a 37 by 1350 wide Nitto Ridge Grappler. This truck looks incredibly well driving down the road, and it drives and handles really well. Also, I know we get a lot of comments about guys wondering about the weight. As you can see, this truck tows, has the camper in the bed, which we'll mention in a second, and yet it's running a 17-inch wheel with 37-inch tire. There's no concern about sway or anything like that. You set your tire pressures properly, and these trucks handle amazing with this wheel and tire package. As we've all found out when taking these trucks off highway, the factory lighting actually is pretty good in a neighborhood these days on the 5th gen trucks, but once you get the dirt, you do want a lot more throw because there's so much cutoff in the factory headlights. This customer opted for the Baja Designs linkable bar, which is the light bar setup that's going to be on top of the bumper. That is going to offer a ton of light, and realistically, just with that setup, you can pretty much hit some very high speeds, completely blacked out roads in complete comfort just due to how much light output there is. And then he also opted for the Baja Designs fog lights. Fog lights are great for around town, just a little bit more supplemental light, trying to see a house number on a house on a dark street, things like that. These fog lights work incredibly well. When backing up to his trailer or trying to do a rescue in the middle of the night, things like that, he opted for the Baja Designs reverse light kit. That is going to be the 2 S2 lights under the rear bumper. While these are some pretty small lights, the light output is actually quite impressive. And if you haven't used them, check out some other videos. They work quite well and are going to basically give you all the area lighting you need behind your truck. Moving on from the lighting, the very obvious Go Fast camper in the back of the vehicle. The Go Fast campers are actually a very kind of cool setup. You take a metal constructed shell. So they have that topper model, and then you have the Go Fast Camper actual camper. That's what this customer opted for. So you have the aluminum structure for the actual shell, And then on top of that is equivalent of a rooftop tent, yet larger. So a full-size person, 6 foot and taller, 2 people could actually sleep in there in comfort, and it's a very cool setup. We've run them on our shop power wagon. Some of our trucks are now running the Go Fast Topper, which is the non-tent version. They work incredibly well. They're lightweight, they're very durable, so they hold up to the uses. And it's actually something we're now carrying at CJC Off-Road as well. So we're very excited about that. They're also very customizable. You type in Go Fast Camper mod or accessory on YouTube, you're gonna find a complete deep dive of custom things you can do to these. Guys are mounting solar panels. There's slots all on the side so you can mount lights, antennas, cell phone boosters, Starlinks. The sky is really the limit, and they're very cool products. So if it's something you've never seen, check them out. I think you're gonna be quite impressed. Quality workmanship on them has been solid. We've taken ours through Mexico, haven't had any issues, and it's been quite durable. So we're very happy with this product and even more stoked to be carrying it in-house here. I do think one of the most interesting things about this truck is this factory rear air suspension. Traditionally, when people email or call and ask us, do I go with the air or not to, we actually typically sway customers away from it just because it does allow for a lot more modifications without it. Guys aren't familiar with the air system, etc. However, this customer's use case is actually a perfect case scenario for how this auto leveling rear air suspension could be good for you as a customer. So this guy's gonna be commuting in this truck. He's got the Go Fast camper and a bunch of camping gear in the back full time, which adds some weight, so the truck is already compensating for that. Sometimes he just goes out and camps with family and friends. Sometimes he goes out and camps with family and friends in a trailer with a rock crawler behind it. So he has a ton of different uses, a ton of different weights on the rear hitch and the payload of the truck. And that is where the air suspension constantly compensates for that, creates a level riding or level stance truck, and it rides really well with the custom tuned King 2.5 shocks. So it's actually a very cool package. The only downside of this setup would be if you really want to do some spirited off-road driving with the truck, trailer detached, things like that, you will potentially run into issues with the air suspension, whether that's just a service light. You could even pop the bag if you really jump the truck. We've actually seen a customer do that once or twice. So I do want to throw that out there. If you do want to get a little crazy behind the wheel, go with the coil spring. But for those of you, like the most of us who aren't jumping these trucks these days, a factory rear air setup is actually a very cool package, and it is even cooler that there is a purpose-built aftermarket suspension from Carli Suspension for these trucks. And it just all around works really well. And actually this truck rides extremely well. So you're gonna get the best of essentially all worlds, and you can have your cake and eat it too with this package. I hope I answered all your questions. If I didn't, leave a comment down below, shoot us an email, give us a call. We'll be happy to answer any questions you have. But yeah, I can't say enough how thrilled I am to see a customer come in, pick up some parts, create this truck, and then bring it back by. I'm more than stoked. So thank you to him for setting aside some time to film with us. I hope you guys like this video. Give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't. We'll see you guys on the next one.